Hello, boys and girls. Miss Underwood decided that I know that I have some older boys and girls that I have been tutoring, and I have been promising them that I would read them a chapter book. So I found one of my very favorite books from when I was little, Beezus and Ramona. And I think you're going to like this because this chapter book is about a big sister, Beezus Quimby, and she tries to be patient with her 4-year-old little sister Ramona, but it is not easy because Ramona powders her nose with marshmallows. She invites her nursery school class to a party without telling her family, and sometimes Beezus doesn't like Ramona, but the girls are sisters, and that means they will always love each other. Just not every single minute. So we are going to read this book. I'm going to pause the video in between chapters so that if you don't want to sit through the whole book in one sitting, you can, and then you can pick up the next chapter. The trouble with sisters. Beezus felt the biggest trouble with 4-year-old Ramona was that she was just plain exasperating. If Ramona drank lemonade through a straw, she blew the straw as hard as she could to see what would happen. If she played with finger paints in the front yard, she wiped her hands on the neighbor's cat. That was the exasperating sort of thing Ramona did. And then there was the way she behaved about her favorite book. And then we've got our table of contents, which shows our chapter. Chapter 1, which is Beezus and her little sister. Chapter 2, Beezus and her imagination. Chapter 3, Ramona and Risby. Chapter 4, Ramona and the apples. Chapter 5, a party at the Quimbys. Chapter 6, Beezus' birthday. Chapter 1, Beezus and her little sister. Beatrice Quimby's biggest problem was her little sister Ramona. Beatrice, or Beezus, as everyone called her, because that was what Ramona had called her when she first learned to talk, knew other 9-year-old girls who had little sisters who went to nursery school, but she did not know anyone with a little sister like Ramona. Beezus felt the biggest trouble with 4-year-old Ramona was that she was just plain exasperating. If Ramona drank lemonade through a straw, she blew the straw as hard as she could to see what would happen. If she played with her finger paints in the front yard, she wiped her hands on her neighbor's cat. That was the sort of thing that Ramona did. And then there was the way she behaved about her favorite book. It all began one afternoon after school when Beezus was sitting in her father's big chair, embroidering a laughing tea kettle on a pot holder for one of her aunts for Christmas. She was trying to embroider this one neatly because she planned to give her to her Aunt Beatrice, who was her mother's younger sister and Beezus' most special aunt. With gray thread, Beezus carefully outlined the steam coming from the tea kettle's spout and thought about her pretty young aunt, who was always so happy and so understanding. No wonder she was Mother's favorite sister. Beezus hoped to be exactly like Aunt Beatrice when she grew up. She wanted to be a 4th-grade teacher and drive a yellow convertible and live in an apartment house with an elevator and a buzzer that opened the front door because she was named after Aunt Beatrice. Beezus felt she might be like her in other ways too. While Beezus was swinging, Ramona, holding a mouth organ in her teeth, was riding around the living room on her tricycle. Since she needed both hands to steer the tricycle, she could blow in and out only one note. This made the harmonica sound as if it was groaning, "Oh dear, over and over again. Beezus tried to pay no attention. She tied a small knot in the end of the piece of the red thread to embroider the tea kettle's laughing mouth. Conceal a knot as you would a secret, Grandmother had always said. Inhaling and exhaling into her mouth organ, Ramona closed her eyes and tried to pedal around the coffee table without looking. Ramona, cried Beezus, watch where you're going. When Ramona crashed into the coffee table, she opened her eyes again. Oh dear, moaned the harmonica. And look, there's a picture. Round and around pedaled Ramona, inhaling and exhaling. Beezus looked up from her pot holder. Ramona, why don't you go play with Beetix for a while? Beetix was Ramona's favorite doll. Ramona thought Beetix was the most beautiful name in the world. Ramona took harmonica out of her mouth. No, read my Scoopy book to me. Oh, Ramona, not Scoopy, protested Beezus. We've read Scoopy so many times. Instead of answering, Ramona put her harmonica between her teeth again and pedaled around the room, inhaling and exhaling. Beezus had to lift her feet every time Ramona rode by. The knot in Beezus's thread pulled through the material of her pot holder, and she gave up trying to conceal it as she would a secret, and tied a bigger knot. Finally, tired of trying to keep her feet out of Ramona's way, she put down her embroidery. All right, Ramona, she said, if I read about Scoopy, will you stop riding your tricycle around the living room and making so much noise? Yes, said Ramona, and climbed off her tricycle. She ran into the bedroom she shared with Beezus and returned with a battered, dog-eared, sticky book, which she handed to Beezus. Then she climbed into the big chair beside Beezus and waited expectantly. Reflecting that Ramona always managed to get her own way, Beezus gingerly took the book and looked at it with a feeling of great dislike. It was called The Littlest Steam Shovel. The cover was a picture of a steam shovel with big tears coming out of his eyes. How could a steam shovel have eyes, Beezus thought, and scarcely looking at the words, began for what seemed like the 100th time, or maybe the 1000th time. Once there was a little steam shovel named Scoopy. One day Scoopy said, I don't want to be a steam shovel. I want to be a bulldozer. You skipped, interrupted Ramona. No, I didn't, said Beezus. Yes, you did, insisted Ramona. You're supposed to say, I want to be a big bulldozer. Oh, all right, Beezus said crossly. I want to be a big bulldozer. Ramona smiled contently, and Beezus continued reading. Grrr, says Scoopy, doing his best to sound like a bulldozer. Beezus read on through Scoopy's failure to be a bulldozer. She read about Scoopy wanting to be a trolley bus. Beep, beep, honked Ramona, a locomotive. A-hooey, wailed Ramona, a pile driver. Clonk, clonk, shouted Ramona. And Beezus was glad when she finally reached the end of the story, and Scoopy learned that it was best for little steam shovels to be steam shovels. There, she said with relief, and closed the book. She always felt foolish for trying to make noises for machinery. Clonk, clonk, yelled Ramona, jumping down from the chair. She pulled her harmonica out of her pocket of her overalls and climbed down her tricycle. Oh dear, she inhaled and exhaled. Ramona, cried Beezus, you promised if I read Scoopy to you. I did stop, said Ramona, when she had taken the harmonica out of her mouth. Now read it again. Ramona Geraldine Quimby, Beezus began and stopped. It was useless to argue with Ramona. She wouldn't pay any attention. Why do you like that story anyway? Beezus asked. Steam shovels can't talk. I feel silly trying to make all those noises. I don't, said Ramona, wailed, a-hooey, a-hooey, with great feeling before she put the harmonica back in her mouth. Beezus watched her little sister pedal furiously around the living room, inhaling and exhaling. Why did she have to like a book about a steam shovel anyway? Girls weren't supposed to like machinery. Why couldn't she like something quiet, like Peter Rabbit? Mother, who had bought the littlest steam shovel at the supermarket to keep Ramona quiet while she shopped one afternoon, was so tired of Scoopy, she always managed to be too busy to read to Ramona. Father came right out and said he was fed up and frustrated with steam shovels, and he would not read that book to Ramona, and furthermore, no one else was to read it to her while he was in the house, and that was that. So only Beezus was left to read Scoopy to Ramona. Plainly, something had to be done, and it was up to Beezus to do that. But what? Arguing with Ramona was a waste of time. So was appealing to her better nature. The best thing to do with Ramona, Beezus had learned, was to think up something to take the place of whatever her mind was fixed upon. And what could take the place of the littlest steam shovel? Another book, of course, a better book, and the place to find was certainly the library. Ramona, how would you like for me to take you to the library to find a different book? Beezus asked. She really enjoyed taking Ramona places, which of course was quite different from wanting to have to go to some place herself and having Ramona insist to tag along. For a moment, Ramona was undecided. Plainly, she was torn between wanting the littlest steam shovel read aloud again and the pleasure of going out with Beezus. Okay, she agreed at last. Get your sweater while I tell Mother, said Beezus. Clunk, clunk, sounded Ramona happily. When Ramona appeared with her sweater, Beezus stared at her in dismay. Oh no, she thought. She can't wear those to the library. On her head, Ramona wore a circle of cardboard with 2 long paper ears attached. The inside of the ears were colored with pink crayon. Ramona's work at nursery school. I'm the Easter Bunny, announced Ramona. Mother, wailed Beezus. You aren't going to let her wear those awful ears to the library. Why? I don't see why not, said Mother. Mother sounded surprised that Beezus should object to Ramona's ears. They look so silly. Whoever heard of an Easter bunny in September? Beezus complained, as Ramona hopped up and down to make her ears flop. I just hope we don't meet anyone I know, Beezus thought as they started out the front door. But the girls had no sooner left the house than when they saw Miss Weiser, a lady who lived on the next block, coming toward them with a friend. It was too late to turn back. Miss Weiser had seen them and was waving. Why, hello there, Beezus, Miss Weiser said. And when they met, I see you have a dear little bunny with you today. Yes. Beezus didn't know what else to say. Ramona obligingly hopped up and down to make her ears flop. Miss Weiser said to her friend, if Beezus and Ramona couldn't hear, isn't she adorable? Both children knew who Miss Weiser was talking about. If she had been talking about Beezus, she would have said something quite different. Such a nice girl, probably. A sweet child. Adorable, never. Just look at those eyes, said Miss Weiser. Ramona beamed. She knew whose eyes they were talking about. Beezus knew, too, but she didn't care. Mother said blue eyes were just as pretty as brown. Miss Weiser leaned over to Ramona. What color are your eyes, sweetheart? She asked. Brown and white, said Ramona promptly. Brown and white eyes, exclaimed the friend. Isn't that cunning? Beezus had thought it was cunning the first time she heard Ramona say it about a year ago. Since then, she had given up trying to explain that Ramona that she wasn't supposed to say that she had brown and white eyes, because Ramona always answered, my eyes are brown and white. And Beezus had to admit that in a way they were. And what is the little bunny's name? Asked Miss Weiser's friend. My name is Ramona Geraldine Quimby, answered Ramona, and then added generously, my sister's name is Beezus. Beezus, exclaimed the lady. What an odd name. Is it French? Oh no, said Beezus, wishing that she so often did that she had a more common nickname like Betty or Patsy. She explained as quickly as she could how she happened to be called Beezus. Ramona did not like to lose the attention of the audience. She hitched up the leg of the overalls and raised her knee. See my scab, she said proudly. I fell down and hurt my knee, and it bled and bled. Ramona, Beezus was horrified. You aren't supposed to show people your scabs. Why not? Asked Ramona. It was one of the most exasperating things about Ramona. She never seemed to understand what she was supposed to do. It's a very nice scab, said Miss Weiser's friend, but she did not look as if she really thought it was nice. Well, we must be going, says Miss Weiser. Goodbye, Miss Weiser, said Beezus, politely, hoping if they met anyone else that they knew she could somehow manage to hide Ramona behind a bush. Bye-bye, Ramona, said Miss Weiser. Goodbye, said Ramona, and Beezus knew that she felt that the girl who was 4 years old was too grown up to say bye-bye. Except for holding Ramona's hand crossing the street, Beezus lingered behind her the rest of the way to the library. She hoped that all the people who stopped and smiled at Ramona would not think they were together. When they reached the Glenwood Branch Library, she said, Ramona, wouldn't you like for me to carry your ears now? No, said Ramona flatly. Inside the library, Beezus hurried Ramona into the boys and girls section of the seat and seated her into a little chair in front of the picture books. See, Ramona, she whispered, here's a book about a duck. Wouldn't you like that? No, said Ramona in a loud voice. Beezus's face turned red with embarrassment when she looked at everybody around in the library, looked at Ramona's ears and smiled. Shh, she whispered as Miss Griever, the grown-ups librarian, frowned in their direction. You're supposed to speak quietly in the library. Beezus selected another book. Look, Ramona, here's a funny story about a kitten that falls into a goldfish bowl. Wouldn't you like that? No, Ramona said in a loud whisper. I want to find my own book. If only Miss Evans, the children's librarian, were there, she would know how to select a book for Ramona. Beezus noticed Miss Griever glanced disapprovingly in their direction, while the other grown-ups watched Ramona and smiled. All right, you can look, Beezus agreed to keep Ramona quiet. I'll go find a book for myself. When Beezus had selected her book, she returned to the picture book section, where she found Ramona sitting on the bench with both arms clasped around a big flat book. I found my book, she said, and held it up for Beezus to see. On the cover was a picture of a steam shovel with its jaws full of rocks. The title was Big Steve the Steam Shovel. Oh, Ramona, whispered Beezus in a dismay. You don't want that book. I do too, insisted Ramona, forgetting to whisper. You told me I could pick my own book. Under the disapproving stare of Miss Griever, Beezus gave up. Ramona was right. Beezus looked with distaste at the big orange book in its stout library binding. At least it would be due in 2 weeks, but Beezus did not feel very happy at the thought of 2 more weeks of steam shovels. And it just went to show how Ramona always got her way. Beezus took her book and Ramona's book to Miss Griever's desk. Is this where you pay for the books? Asked Ramona. We don't have to pay for the books, said Beezus. Are you going to charge them? Ramona asked. Beezus pulled out her library card of her sweater pocket. I showed this card to the lady. She lets us keep the books for 2 weeks. A library isn't like a store where you buy things. Ramona looked as if she did not understand. I want a card, she said. You have to be able to write your own name before you can have a library card, Beezus explained. I can write my own name, said Ramona. Oh, Ramona, Beezus says, you can't either. Perhaps she really does know how to write her name, Miss Greaver said, as she took out a card out of her desk. Beezus watched doubtfully while Miss Greaver asked Ramona to write her name and age, and then the librarian asked Ramona what her father's occupation was. When Ramona didn't understand, she asked, "What kind of work does your dad do?" "He mows the lawn," said Ramona promptly. The librarian laughed. "I mean, how does he earn his living?" Somehow Beezus did not like to have Miss Greaver laugh at her little sister. After all, how could Ramona be expected to know what her father did? "Works for Pacific Gas and Electric Company," Beezus told the librarian. Miss Greaver wrote this down on the card and shoved it across the desk to Ramona. "Now write your name on this line," she directed. Nothing daunted, Ramona grasped the pencil in her fist and began to write. She bore down hard on the tip, so hard that the tip snapped off the lead, but she wrote on. When she laid down the pencil, Beezus picked up the card to see what she had written, and on the line it was filled with... "That's my name," said Ramona proudly. "That's just scribbling," Beezus told her. "It is to my name," insisted Ramona, while Miss Greaver quietly dropped the card into the wastebasket. "I've watched you write, and I know how. Here, Ramona, you can hold my card." Beezus tried to be comforting. "You can pretend it's yours." I brightened at this, and Miss Greaver checked out the books on Beezus's card. And as soon as they got home, Ramona demanded, "Read my new book to me." And so Beezus began. Big Steve was a steam shovel, and he was the biggest steam shovel in the whole city. When she finished the book, she had to admit she liked Big Steve better than Scoopy. His only sound effects were tooting and growling, and he tooted and growled in big letters on every page. Big Steve did not shed tears or want to be a pile driver. He worked hard at being a steam shovel, and by the end of the book, Beezus had learned a lot about steam shovels. Unfortunately, she did not want to learn about steam shovels. Oh, well, she guessed she could stand 2 weeks of Big Steve. "Read it again," said Ramona enthusiastically. "I like Big Steve. He's better than Scoopy." "How would you like for me to show you how to really write your name?" Beezus asked, hoping to divert Ramona from steam shovels. "Okay," agreed Ramona. Beezus found pencils and paper and wrote Ramona in large, careful letters across the top of the paper. Ramona studied it critically. "I don't like it," she said at last. "But that's the way your name is spelled," Beezus explained. "You didn't make the dots and lines," she said. And Ramona, seizing the pencil, she wrote. "Ramona, you don't understand." Beezus took the pencil and wrote her own name on the paper. "You've seen me write Beatrice, which has an I and a T in it. See? Like that. You don't have an I or a T in your name because it isn't spelled that way." Ramona looked at it skeptical. She grabbed the pen again and wrote with a flourish. "That's my name because I like it," she announced. "I like to make the dots and the lines." Lying flat on her stomach in the floor, she proceeded to fill the paper with I's and T's. "But Ramona, nobody's name is spelled with just..." And Beezus stopped. What was the use? Trying to explain spelling and writing to Ramona was too complicated. Everything became difficult when Ramona was around. Even an easy thing like taking a book out of the library. If Ramona was happy thinking her name is spelled with I's and T's, then she can go ahead and think it. The next 2 weeks were fairly peaceful. Father and Mother, soon tired of tooting and growling and like Beezus, they looked forward to the day Big Steve was due to the library. Father even tried to hide the book behind the radio, but Ramona soon found it. Beezus was happy that one part of her plan had worked. Ramona had forgotten the littlest steam shovel. Now she had a better book. On Ramona's second trip to the library, perhaps Miss Evans could find a book that would make her forget steam shovels entirely. As far as Ramona, she was perfectly happy. She had 3 people to read about a book she liked, and she spent much of her time covering sheets of paper with I's and T's. Sometimes she wrote in pencil. Sometimes she wrote in crayon. Once she wrote in ink until her mother caught her at it. Finally, the relief of the rest of the family came the day Big Steve had to be returned. "Come on, Ramona," said Beezus. "It's time to go to the library for another book. I have to have a book." "I have a book," said Ramona, who was lying on her stomach, writing her version of her name and a piece of paper with purple crayon. "No, it belongs to the library," Beezus explained. Glad for once Ramona couldn't possibly get her own way. "It's my book," said Ramona, crossing several T's with a flourish. "Beezus is right, dear," observed Mother. "Run along and get Big Steve." Ramona looked sulky, but she went into the bedroom. In a few minutes she appeared with Big Steve in her hand and satisfied expression on her face. "It's my book," she announced. "I wrote my name in it." Mother looked alarmed. "What do you mean, Ramona? Let me see it." She took the book and opened it. Every page in the book was covered with enormous I's and T's in Ramona's very best handwriting. "Mother!" cried Beezus. "Look what she's done, and it's in crayon, and it can't be erased. Ramona Quimby, you're a very naughty girl. Why did you do a thing like that?" "It's my book," said Ramona stubbornly. "I like it." "Mother, what am I going to do?" Beezus demanded. "It's sticked out on my card, and I'm responsible. They won't let me take out any more books out of the library, and I won't have anything to read, and it will be all Ramona's fault. She's always spoiling my fun, and it isn't fair." Beezus didn't know what she would do without a library card. She couldn't get along without a library book. She just couldn't, and it wasn't. That was all. "I do not spoil your fun," stormed Ramona. "You have all the fun. I can't read. It isn't fair." Ramona's words ended in a howl as she buried her face in her mother's skirt. "I couldn't read when I was your age, and I didn't have someone to read to me all the time. So it is too fair," argued Beezus. "You always get your own way because you're the youngest." "I do not," shouted Ramona. "And you don't read all the time. You're mean." "I'm not mean," Beezus shouted. "Children," Mother cried. "Stop it, both of you. Ramona, you were a very naughty girl." And a loud sniff came from Ramona. "And Beezus," her mother continued, "the library won't take your card away from you. If you get my purse, I'll give you some money to pay for the damage to the book. Take Ramona along with you. Explain what happened, and the librarian will tell you how much to pay." This made Beezus feel better. Ramona sulked the whole way to the library, but when they got there, Beezus was pleased that Miss Evans, the children's librarian, was sitting behind the desk. Miss Evans was the kind of librarian who would understand about little sisters. "Hello, Beatrice," said Miss Evans. Is this your little sister I've heard all about?" Beezus wondered what Miss Evans had heard about Ramona. "Yes, this is Ramona," she said, and went on hesitantly. "And Miss Evans, I'm a bad girl," interrupted Ramona, smiling winningly. "Oh, you are," said Miss Evans. "What did you do?" "I wrote it in a book," said Ramona, not the least bit ashamed. "I wrote in purple crayon, and it will never, ever be erased. Never, never, never." Embarrassed, Beezus handed Miss Evans the big steam shovel. "Mother gave me money to pay for the damage," she explained. The librarian turned the pages of the book. "Well, you didn't miss a page, did you?" she finally said to Ramona. "No," said Ramona, pleased with herself, "and it will never, never." "I'm awfully sorry," interrupted Beezus. "After all, I try to keep our library books where she can't reach them." Miss Evans consulted a file of little cards in a drawer. "Since every page in the book was damaged and the library can no longer use it, I'll have to ask you to pay for the whole book. I'm sorry, but this is the rule, and it will cost $2.50. $2.50. What a lot of things that would have bought, Beezus reflected as she pulled 3 folded dollar bills out of her pocket and handed them to the librarian. Miss Evans put the money in a drawer and gave Beezus 50 cents in change. Then Miss Evans took a rubber stamp and stamped something inside the book. By twisting her head around, Beezus could see the words, discarded. There, Miss Evans said, pushing the book across the desk. You've paid for it, so now it's yours. Beezus stared at the librarian. You mean to keep it? That's right, answered Miss Evans. Ramona grabbed the book. It's mine. I told you it was mine. Then she turned and Beezus said triumphantly to Beezus, you said people don't buy books at the library, and now you just bought one. Buying a book and paying for a damage are not the same thing, Miss Evans pointed out to Ramona. Beezus could see that Ramona didn't care. The book was hers, wasn't it? And it was paid for, and she could keep it. And that's not fair, thought Beezus. Ramona shouldn't get her own way for being naughty. But Miss Evans, protested Beezus, if she spoils a book, she shouldn't get to keep it. Now, every time she finds a book she likes, she will. Beezus didn't go on. She knew very well what Ramona would do, but she wasn't going to say it out loud in front of her. I see what you mean, Miss Evans looked thoughtful. Give me the book, Ramona, she said. Doubtfully, Ramona handed her the book. Ramona, do you have a library card? Miss Evans asked. Ramona shook her head. Then Beezus must have taken the book out on her card. So the book belongs to Beezus. Why, of course. Why hadn't she thought of that before? It was her book, not Ramona's. Oh, thank you, Beezus said gratefully as Evans handed the book to her. She could do anything she wanted to with it. For once, Ramona didn't know what to say. She scowled and looked as if she were building up to a tantrum. You've got to read it to me, she said at last. Not unless I feel like it, said Beezus. After all, it's my book. And she couldn't resist adding, it's not fair. Looked as if she were about to howl. It is too fair, said Beezus calmly. And if you have a tantrum, I won't read it to you at all. Suddenly she had decided Beezus meant what she said. Ramona stopped scowling. Okay, she said cheerfully. Beezus watched her carefully for a minute. Yes, she really was being agreeable, thought Beezus with a great feeling of relief. And now she did not have to read Big Steve unless she wanted to. Beezus felt she would not mind reading it once in a while. Come on, Ramona, she said. Maybe I'll have time to read it to you before Father comes home. Okay, said Ramona happily, and she took Beezus's hand. Miss Evans smiled at the girls, and they started to leave. Good luck, Beatrice, she said. And that is the end of Chapter 1. Chapter 2 will be in our next video, and Chapter 2 is Beezus and Her Imagination. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.